the word got out that our party, that Prince Albert had agreed to come, which was quite exciting, you know, because the celebrity is, as you know, is celebrity sells. People act bizarre around celebrities, but when you own a yacht over $140 million, and the woman who owns it shows up in the middle of August in Monaco in a St. John's suit that's probably best worn in the colder winter months. I'm not an authority on knit, but I know what I know, and I know when something looks like it's too hot for the weather. You know, you just say to yourself, what's going on here? You know, this poor woman, she has a yacht that's over $100 million, but doesn't have a dress that's a little bit cooler in the heat of Monaco.
Let's roll, Art.
All right. So welcome to Maritime Moment, your marine news and entertainment podcast. I'm your host, Art Hill.
And I'm Lisa Ober. Maritime Moment is a video podcast connecting the marine industry while we're all dry docked and quarantined during the coronavirus pandemic. This creative collaboration features marine news entertainment for commercial marine, the yachting industry, recreational boating, and fishing, and is brought to you by Mega Yacht Media and Road Marine Business Advisors.
Social distancing and sheltering in place doesn't mean complete isolation in today's digital world. Maritime Moment was conceived for you to connect your company and colleagues sharing the same interests. Produced in Florida, our channels include LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, our Maritime Moments website, as well as our e-newsletter. You can advertise for just a modest fee or simply be our guest. It's your Maritime Moment. Make the most of it.
In the news, the coronavirus outbreak prompted organizers of numerous boat shows to either postpone or cancel their events, including the Dubai International Boat Show and boat shows in Japan, Taiwan, and Singapore. The Newport Charter Show has been moved from June to September. And the Palm Beach Boat Show, which was eagerly anticipated with perfect weather in mid-March, has been rescheduled for May as a revamped virtual event. But across the pond, the show must go on. Organizers for the Monaco Yacht Show are moving forward. Our first guest on Maritime Moment, Miami-based maritime and aviation attorney Michael Moore, won't be missing this year's show in Monaco. Welcome to Maritime Moment, Michael. Let's make some sound waves.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
We're glad to have you. Why is the Monaco Yacht Show such an important event for the yachting industry?
You know, I think the global yachting industry, I think everyone who's involved, there are these centers of importance like Lauderdale or Miami, Palm Beach, but really the father of them all is the Monaco show, and it's special. It's got one of these undefined qualities that it makes it in my view, a must attend. You have to be there.
I understand. How many years have you been attending the event, and do you attend the parties that are associated with the show?
Well, we're sort of measuring things in decades at this point. So I think that we have been attending that show for at least 20 years. And, you know, it's difficult to remember, but in 1998, yeah, more than 20 years, in 1998, I was there and had the pleasure of meeting a young man, a 45-year-old man named Paul Allen. And, you know, it's just the magic of the moment when you meet someone who's 45 years of age and is a billionaire and interested in the yachting and the world's oceans and ends up owning 3 yachts. And so I would say over 20 years, certainly since 1998, 97, something like that.
And how long have you been hosting a party yourself? We were pleased to join you and to work on the invitation for the event at your villa.
Thank you.
This event really connects the wealthiest people in the world, doesn't it?
Mm.
More so than Flibs or other yacht shows that you might attend, don't you think?
I think that's right. It's Monaco is it's nonstop fun. It's a party of that's beyond my initial comprehension. It was a magical place that you could read about, and you'd heard about the world's first oceanographer, Albert the First, and who was this Grimaldi family, and how do they do this in this tiny little principality of only 600 acres or so, smaller than Central Park. And the whole thing was, but someone along the way, like so many mentors, said you have to be there, and you really will enjoy the experience. I think that's the main thing, is you just enjoy yourself, you have a good time, and then magic kind of happens while you're there. I will say this, and in answer to your question, I think this might be responsive. At some point in my life, I stopped enjoying hotels, and I saw this article about the 100 gardens you should see before you die, which was in London. And I told her that I'd read the article, and she was delighted. Just a lovely, open lady in terms of being accessible. Struck me as being a little older. She was English, and I called her in London. Told her that I'd like to rent her house, which was in a place called Mentone, that had the garden next to it. And she was delightful. She says, "Well, I don't know how we would do that." And I said, "Well, I'll just send you the money and whatever you need, and after you get it, we can, I'll show up one day and my family will be with me. It'll be a beautiful thing." She said, "Well, how would I get you the key?" And I said, "Well, you could put it under a rock by the door, or you can mail it to me. Whatever works for you would work for me. I'm not too concerned about it." That was 17 years ago. There was no Airbnb. I sent her the money. She gave the key to a neighbor in this wonderful villa, which was the first party that I hosted was 17 years ago at this wonderful villa. It was faded glory. It was not, perfect and beautiful in every respect, but it had some wallpaper that needed to be put up. There were things that you could say needed attention, but it was cool. It was incredibly cool. It was a post, maybe pre-World War II. It had bullet holes, so it was pre-World War II. And I remember seeing these bullet holes. Oh yeah, the Italians and the French came through here with chasing the Germans, and they shot it up a little bit, but we just never got around to replacing it. She was a lovely lady, but that was the magic of that particular Monaco boat show. It was, you have to understand, magic just happens. These three girls show up. We call them the princesses, that knew my son Emmett from school and somehow had heard that he was in the area. And as these young people do, they traded emails and text messages or what have you. And these three girls showed up, and they stayed with us the entire thing. We had them in what we called the tower. There was a tower. We'd put the three girls up there. My now 95-year-old mother was with us. We had just a delightful time. So that's a long way around to say 17 years ago, we started renting homes on the internet. And that was the first time. She said, "I've never heard of this, but I have no problem. If you like the place." She said, it's old. And I said, "No, it's absolutely fantastic." And that was the first party. We hosted a party there. It was great.
You mentioned Menton, everybody.
I'm not sure exactly how you say it. I don't speak English that well, so French is definitely beyond my grasp. So,
I know that town because
yeah.
I've been to the Monaco Yacht Show in 2006 and last year in 2019.
Nice.
And a person that I got a ride with, a colleague, there's a McDonald's in Menton. And of all things, after the Monaco Yacht Show, we went to McDonald's, and then we saw, we all have our name badges on still. We saw a yacht broker, and I'm like, that must be the world's least successful yacht broker who is at McDonald's. But oh wait, we're there too, aren't we? And, Airbnb made it a lot easier this year for me than in 2006 when I stayed in Nice. Then you have the train, da da da. But you see boats in Monaco that you will never see in the United States. In
You know what
2000,
they call the, quarter pounder in France, Lisa?
ooh, tell us.
It's called the Royale. You know why?
The,
Art, help her out here. It's in the movie Pulp Fiction.
I have no idea.
You don't remember Greg saying the metric system?
Oh yeah.
And Samuel, oh my gosh, the great actor who was with John Travolta, said, "Look at the
Samuel
big brain."
Jackson.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Look at the big brain on Brad.
Mm-hmm.
Right before he shot him.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's called the Royale. Quarter pounder wouldn't translate.
I hadn't been to a McDonald's. I never go to McDonald's, but I did in France, of
There you
all
go.
places. Just a riot. And then they had it computerized there, and I was like, wow, it's been a long time. You had to plug it in there, and I never go to a McDonald's, so I had no idea. But it seemed high tech.
Worth
But in
going to hell.
2006, I reviewed at the time the world's largest Otter Swan, which had a Greek captain. I reviewed Tuscan Sun, which was
Nice.
DeBasto design.
Yes,
That was the year of Maltese Falcon.
I remember Elena very well.
And you just don't see some of these boats in the United States that you will get at the Monaco Yacht Show.
That Falcon.
Elena, we had a party with, the word got out that our party, that Prince Albert had agreed to come, which was quite exciting, because the celebrity is, as you know, is celebrity sells. People act bizarre around celebrities, but this woman who had built this astonishing yacht, sailboat, had various reported cost of 9 figures, and it was a strange moment when she called and wanted to attend the party, and I said, absolutely, no worries. Now, when you own a yacht over $140 million, and the woman who owns it shows up in the middle of August in Monaco in a St. John's suit that's probably best worn in the colder winter months. I'm not an authority on knit, but I know what I know, and I know when something looks like it's too hot for the weather. You just say to yourself, what's going on here? This poor woman, she has a yacht that's over $100 million, but doesn't have a dress that's a little bit cooler in the heat of Monaco. But that's a memory that I have. I don't know why I have it, but I remember introducing her to Prince Albert, and it's a little bit of magic. It's a little bit of fun, and it's a little surreal at the same time. It's not real, but it's fun, and you meet someone who later will call you and say, "Will you represent me?" And it still is a great thing to get. Will you represent me in this matter? So that's Monaco. I think that you go for the show, but you would be completely misguided if you go in there just, I'm going to tackle the next billionaire that comes down the dock. It's better that you go there with the attitude of, let's have some fun and really take an interest in the people that you're talking to. That who is this person, and what do they have? What do they contribute to the yacht world? And they may be completely understated as to what they do, but it's quite everyone has a story, and I think it's one of the reasons I love the industry so much. It's just the people you talk to half the time are a little bit not telling you who their clients are or who they represent or why they're there, or they look like something that is not Hollywood's idea of what that person should look like. The Hollywood has these stereotypes they perpetuate, but Monaco to me is a place where you know, sort of interesting things happen. Let's put it that way. I forget what the question was.
I have a
That's a good
question.
question.
I have a question. I mean,
Okay.
Prince Albert, that sounds like a pretty famous guest. I mean, you definitely have my attention about these yachting parties. So I might have to catch a
Oh yeah.
flight here pretty soon. But
Oh yeah.
who was
You need to be there.
Absolutely. It sounds like it, it's definitely the right place to be. But who was your most memorable guest? Whether it doesn't have to be a famous person or a star or celebrity, but like the lady who owns the Falcon, like who was your most memorable out of all your parties?
That's going to be a difficult question to answer. There have been fun moments in the yachty world when you're standing next to someone and you see two guys coming in on a tender, and they're good looking, they're kind of squared away, they have that look, that well tended look, and the tender's being driven by a totally squared away crew member, and the guy standing next to you says, "Do you know who that is?" And I said, "Oh my God, that's Roman Abramovich." He looked at me and he goes, "That's John Bon Jovi." I go, "Well, it is John Bon Jovi, but he's standing next to Roman Abramovich."
Wow.
I mean, because Roman Abramovich is one of the great yacht owners of the yacht world, and he's an amazing guy. He owns the Chelsea Football Club, and he has a lot of other interests, and he's one of those guys. He's kind of charismatic, but so is John Bon Jovi. But I mean, who would you rather have dinner with? I mean, that would be a tough call. I've spent a few hours with Julian Lennon, which is interesting because he is a great environmentalist, which is an area that I'm interested in. He's a philanthropist. He's also an environment. He's also he's an adventurer. He loves to. His thing is indigenous peoples. So he travels all over the world. He goes to very remote locations, and the more remote I think is the better. It's something that I think he probably inherited from his father. He can do anything he wants to do in life. But what he does is try to help other people. And you meet a guy like that, and you just kind of say, "Okay, let me see it. Let's get it out right out of the box. You are John Lennon's son. That's true. Okay, now let's talk about you, because I know everything about your dad. There's nothing I don't know about him. I think I pretty much know it all." And he said, "Well, I was born in Liverpool, and he said, and he starts out with his life. And it's just great." But I remember a Victoria's Secret model as much as any particular. Her name was Victoria. I want to say her last name is Vescova. It was a European name. Real, just beautiful woman. 5'11", absurdly beautiful person, and she was the most engaging person that comes to my mind right now. She said, "Well, I'm married. I have a child." She started talking about her family, and I'm kind of. Somebody said, she's got more covers than anybody else in the world. I didn't really know who she was. I really didn't recognize her at all. She looked pretty normal until she started talking, and then she just lit up like a bulb. I mean, she was like this lit from the inside type person, but just magic. I mean, she really was, and she's one of these persons that came out of like Belarus or someplace, where and she was just terrific. I mean, yeah. And so you remember along the way, I'd remember 3 or 4 different people if I had to think about it. And yeah, they generally tend to be celebrities. People that. I'll tell you one story to your question, that one of my all-time favorite Monaco stories. Okay, and I think all 4 of you need to be there next year.
Sounds good to me.
I go to this. I go to a cocktail party, and so for me, one of the things you're never going to do is compete with the yacht owners. You just can't do it. They're in another stratosphere economically. So you'll go broke if you even forget for a minute that that's who they are. This is who you are. So the idea was a cocktail party, but it was a costume party. So I did a poor man's costume. I put on a seersucker suit, and I bought a little 29-cent mockingbird. I had a white Panama hat from Miami, which I'm told comes actually from Costa Rica or someplace. But and I put the bird on my shoulder because I thought that would be a clue that I was Gregory Peck, right? To kill a mockingbird.
Yeah.
And this man comes up to me, and I'm talking to him, and it hit me. I said, I have to tell you something. With makeup and costume, it's amazing because you are a dead ringer for Quincy Jones. He says, I am Quincy Jones. I went, oh my God. And he says, and you are a dead ringer for Tom Wolfe. And at that point, I reached up and I took that little bird off my shoulder. I put it in my pocket. And for the rest of the evening, it said, who are you? And I go, Tom Wolfe.
Nice.
So I went to the party as Gregory Peck and Atticus Finch, and I left as Tom Wolfe.
Named by Quincy Jones. I'd say that was a pretty good evening.
But listen to this. Quincy Jones told me that his best friend in life is Dennis Washington. And if you look up Dennis Washington, Dennis Washington is a great yacht owner, builder of yachts from Seattle. And I said, wow, that's pretty amazing. I mean, I know Dennis Washington. He has a yacht called the Tessa. And he said, I've known him my entire life. I went, wow, that's interesting. He said, I moved from like the Midwest or someplace. I think it was Chicago. He moves to a town east of Seattle. But the great billionaire, Dennis Washington, who had no money, the great kid from Chicago who had no money, grew up together as best friends. They went on to these amazing careers in their own right. They still travel together. They're still friends. And not only that, I go, wow, that was quite a group. He says, well, our other best friend, there was three of us, was Dale Chihuly. Now, Dale Chihuly is probably the greatest glass artist in the world.
Right here in St. Pete, they have a museum.
He's got artwork. He is without a doubt the #1 glass artist in the world. He went to Rhode Island School of Design. Yeah. He's notable by the patch. He's blind in one eye of glass. Apparently, put out one of his eyes. But you just can't make this stuff up. I mean, you go, well, Dale Chihuly, Dennis Washington, Quincy Jones grew up together. You go, yeah, they were when they were children. They bonded. And they stayed bonded through the years. Yeah, incredible.
They always say 3 degrees of separation from anybody in the world, but that's
Kevin Bacon is. I think there are other on this.
Yeah, I mean, might as well go for gold, right? Jeez, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Michael, I'm sure that besides yacht owners, meeting them in Monaco, and these people are not waiting for their stimulus check to attend the Monaco Yacht Show or to do anything. They're not going to miss the show, assuming that it continues as they've planned. What other spin-off kind of clients come from closing on a yacht, for example?
I think that it's the common, when we have conversations like this, you just naturally talk of brand names. It's funny and it's interesting and you remember the moment. But the reality is that if I went through my, sort of book of business, I think they call it, you would see people from all walks of life. You'll see people from, they're all in the yachty world, but they may be marine surveyors, people that book insurance for yachts, people that serve as dock masters or run marinas, expert witnesses. I know nothing on my own. The reason I always tell people, when I try cases, the experts are the key to the whole process. People that know what they're doing, and actually are experts in these very esoteric areas and increasingly narrower areas of the world. You see this now in the coronavirus outbreak of coming out of the woodwork of just have these tiny little highly defined specialties. But we'll have a claim involving too much noise on a yacht, or too much vibration, or delamination where the shell is delaminating or coming apart. All of these matters that's the business of yachting. It's how do you, and when you have the resources to transfer your wealth into other people's pockets, the yacht world is one of the best redistribution systems that's ever been created. I mean, it's about 100. We talked about this briefly. This 180-foot yacht is about $4 million a year to run. Well, that's not Scrooge McDuck diving into a pool of gold coins. That's $4 million that other people are being paid to work for the yacht. I mean, that's crew. Crew is probably one of the bigger numbers.
Yep.
Maintenance is a big number. Of that 4 million, about 25% is crew. So all of those young men and women are paid. Lawyers have to be paid, of course, we hope. So yeah, all of these people are it's actually, that's kind of goes to that point of who are you talking to, and why is it so? To me, it's just so interesting because you can learn something from everyone that's out. People like yourself who are the writing end of it, the PR end of it, the marketing end of the yacht world. It's a world. It's an industry, and we talked to boatyard builders, project managers, yacht brokers, naval architects, marine engineers, people that build boats, salvors. There's so many dimensions to the world, that we generically refer to as the yacht world, and think of the yacht owner, but he's just the sort of rock star at the top of the pyramid. There's an entire world around that. And thank God for them, because it remains a fascinating thing.
Michael, we're looking forward to having you come back as a guest and talk to us about the International Seakeeper Society, which you're the chairman of.
Be my pleasure.
Before we leave, Art, what questions do you have for Mike to wrap up today's show?
All right. Well, I got some rapid fire questions, so answer them as quick as you can. And
oh boy.
Yeah, let's see what happens. So, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. What's your first boat?
My first boat I built because I wanted to row it across Lake Morton and Lakeland, Florida. My parents never let on that they knew I was building this thing. Never seemed to be worried that it was actually going to be seaworthy. And when I got to the other side of the lake, there was actually a group of people waiting. That was, my mother had called the Lakeland Ledger. So I had actually got 2 injections that day. I realized I liked the limelight, and it was kind of fun being the center of attention. And I also like boating. So it was 2 things that started me on a certain path back in the day.
That's a great story. All right, number 2, what's your COVID-19 quarantine guilty pleasure? It could be TV binge watching, snacks, it could be whatever what's your guilty pleasure?
I have several things that I do every day of my life. And so being sequestered is not a problem for me. I have a band, the Burning Sensations.
Mm-hmm.
No way.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And my children are my bandmates.
No way.
My son Emmett is my drummer, and my bass player, or bassist as he prefers, is my older son Michael. And we are we have 32 songs that we play, and we probably will never play more than 32 songs. I told them it's kind of like 32 views of Mount Fuji, like the Hokusai series. I said you can look at the same mountain every day, and it looks different every day if you look at it through the right perspective. And I call it Music Mountain. I say you can't get up Music Mountain in an ATV. You have to get up Music Mountain one day at a time, one session at a time. But you will never come to the depths of any of these songs. You will be plumbing the depths. You will try to dig deeper every day of your life. and music should remain a part of your life for the rest of your life. So that's my guilty pleasure. That is pleasure. And I like languages, and so I study a foreign language, meaning not English, every day. And I read for pleasure every day. So those are the three things I would say. It's kind of a three-part analysis. But beyond that, I don't really have many hobbies. I don't golf or stuff like that. I've never had an interest in things like that. What I just named is what I have an interest in.
Very good. Well,
Yeah.
that changes my next questions. I was going to ask, what was your biggest fish? Because I'm a big-time fisherman.
Well, of course, I love the fishing sector of the yacht world. I can tell you wonderful things about it. It's an overlooked sector by some people, but it's a multi-billion-dollar a year industry in just the state of Florida.
Yep.
I remember meeting a guy named George Strait. He's a musician, a country musician, a really handsome man. And as you can tell, I'm very quiet and shy, and I don't talk very much. So I saw that, Julianne. I saw that. So I told him that I loved his music. He said, "Oh, really? What song do you like the best?" And of course, my brain went blank. I do have a JD. I do have two undergraduate degrees and a Juris Doctorate degree. My mind was a total blank. I'm sitting there looking at this guy, and I'm thinking, why on earth did I ever say something like that before I gave it some thought? And I'm looking at him, and he's not letting me off the canvas. He's looking right in my face. He's looking at me. There's nothing happening except he's looking at me, and I'm looking at him. And the people that were sort of around us are dead quiet. They're all embarrassed for me. And I said, "When the Cowboy Rides Away," he says, "That's actually my favorite song."
Bravo. Bravo.
And I said, "Wow."
Good man.
Yeah, mine too. But it's like, thank you, God. Where did that come from? I don't know to this day. It was like something just dropped in from outer space. I think he was thinking of it, actually, and I got that vibe. But yeah, I'm not a fisherman, Art, and I can't measure the largest fish I've ever caught because it wouldn't be very impressive to you. I do like to fish. I fish backcountry.
Okay.
I don't fish offshore.
Okay.
And I do like to catch, small fish backcountry, but that's pretty much it. I do enjoy that immensely, by the way.
Good. All right.
But I'm not an offshore fisherman.
So last question. Thank you for that, by the way. Last question. What is something that you want to just leave the people with? During this COVID-19 crisis, there's a lot of people that are doing well, but there's a lot of people that aren't doing well at all. So what is your parting shot for them?
The world has, it doesn't come to an end very often. It's not coming to an end this time around. This too shall pass. And think of this as an opportunity to take stock of who you are and what you want to do for the rest of your life, and then go forward. None of us gets out of this alive. So, this is the time for a new beginning.
Brilliant.
Maritime Moments slogan is making sound waves. Are you going to give us a verse of one of those 32 songs? Can we be your groupies, Mike?
I just happen to have a little something right here.
Oh, I love it.
How does the sound come across?
Great.
Is it coming across at all?
Oh yeah, we can hear it.
All right.
Come see the Burning Sensations at a venue near you.
Bravo.
We're actually working on a song called "One Bar North of Las Olas." It's about a girl that I met in a parking lot, and she was, coming on to me, and I said, "Is this going to cost me money?" And she said, why do you say that? And I said, because usually when people like you take an interest in people like me, there's going to be a monetary exchange or something. And she said, oh no, I'm just interested. There's something about you that I just thought I'd say hello. I went, okay.
Well,
It was in one bar north of Los Olas.
everyone is refreshed to know that you're negotiating all the time, even with a potential hooker.
You know, you have to know your limitations. You have to know your limitations and try not to be too delusional. They say that the capacity for self-delusion is infinite. So anyway, you asked the question, and that's what I'll leave you with. But wait for it. One bar north of Los Olas.
I can't wait. You have my email. Please send it over. That was good. Great
Mike,
job.
thank you for joining us on Maritime Moment, and thank Moore and Company for being our sponsor.
Mike, our
Maritime
pleasure.
Moment.
And I want you guys to be the most successful podcast on the internet.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's going to be a beautiful
All right.
thing. That'd be a beautiful thing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well done. All right. Take care. Stay out of trouble.
Tune
Absolutely.
in to our next episode of Maritime Moment, and we'll make some more sound waves. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.